Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Predator Badlands. Here, you're not the predator, you're the prey. Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric, and this is our spoiler-free review for Predator Badlands, a hunter-size salute to our friends at 20th Century Studios Canada, and by extension, Disney Studios Canada, for inviting us to see this movie early for review. Now, joining me today for this review are two killer dudes who would not survive very long on this death planet, me included as well. But Nate Shelton, Darcy Hudson, how we doing, boys?
Dude, more like Predator badass. Am I
knew
right?
you were going to go with that stupid ass tweet that you put out.
It's not even that good.
No, it's not that good. It's not even like it rhymes. It's just
Listen, I'm hoping it gets picked up. I hope it's in the first trailer that we see.
That's
more
going to
like
be
Predator
pull quoted.
badass.
No, yeah, exactly.
Nate
Yeah.
Shelton, Geekcentric.
Predator, more like Predator badass.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know.
I think it'll work.
I don't know what it is.
Doing good though. I'm happy to be back with the in the Predator verse since
For sure.
Prey and Killer of Killers has been a good time.
Yeah, it's been quite the year for Predators. I know
For Predators.
for let's rewind that.
Rewind a bit.
Let's go back and do that. No, it's been a fantastic year for the Predator franchise so
Yes.
far. Killer of Killers was fantastic. We all participated in that review, correct? Yes.
Mhm.
So I know, Darcy, you absolutely loved the layers that they were thrown in terms of, like, I think you were the one that was even kind of talking about how this kind of seed plants for where they are going with this movie with Badlands in regards to just, it was pretty clear early on that the Yautja and the Predator, the hunter, is going to be the kind of protagonist of the film, and the Killer of Killers really does help to set that up. So I think that's really, really cool. But listen, there is a lot to talk about here. So before we get into talking about it, let's get everyone up to speed about this film. Set in the future on a deadly remote planet, Badlands follows a young predator outcast played by newcomer Dimitrius Koloamatangi, who finds an unlikely ally in Thea, Emmy and Golden Globe nominee Elle Fanning, as he embarks on a treacherous journey in search of the ultimate adversary. Produced by John Davis, Dan Trachtenberg, Mark Toberoff, Ben Rosenbalt, and Brent O'Connor, Predator Badlands is directed by Dan Trachtenberg and will be in theaters exclusively on November 7th in IMAX, RealD 3D, 4DX, ScreenX, and premium screens everywhere. So you can see this movie in apparently any format you want.
In all the formats.
Any format. In all the formats.
Wow.
Because that's what the theater experience is all about now. Premium. Premium. Dude.
And get the popcorn bucket. It's a skull and
Now,
I wouldn't be surprised.
now, what's really great about this film, and we've talked about it even with Killer of Killers, and especially in the animation capacity, is the vibe, right? Is the world building elements. It's so incredible. The cinematography, the creature design, just the environments that are used, and the music was incredible. It felt familiar and yet, new, and also sometimes felt a little expected based on like what you would anticipate for something, like this movie with its story. But for you guys, how did you feel about the look and feel? Darcy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, again, I think the fact that we spent the entire movie with a predator as the lead character without a mask on, it looked incredible. I mean, the emotions they managed to portray on this Yautja's face, despite it being almost fully CG, was incredible. And then the environments that they take us to on this new planet are also breathtaking and really set the stage for like why this planet is the deadliest planet we've seen yet. So it was really cool to explore that. And again, like in Killer of Killers, this movie takes a chance to again explore a bit more of the Yautja culture, if you will, and why they do what they do. So again, the way they pair that with the world, the visuals here is just incredible. So
Yeah, you kind of right off the bat, it's almost striking in a sense. You kind of get if you're familiar with the opening of Dune, it's kind of a similar opening there. You get a bit of a guttural chant, but then we're just thrusted into our first look at Yautja Prime, which is the Yautja homeworld. And immediately, I'm sitting up, I'm leaning in. They know how to get you into this movie and how to sort of thrust you into this world. And the movie takes place primarily in two places. One is Yautja Prime, and then the other one is the planet of Genna. And you guys talked about it, like how ruthless it is, how dangerous it is, and how Justin, none of us would survive on it. But it reminded me a lot of like almost like a deadlier, scarier Pandora. For folks of the Avatar world, I think this has maybe quite a few more lethal things, and I think one of my favorite elements to the world that they've built and that they're showing here is that when we think of the predator, when we think of the Yautja species, it's like, how do we come up with something that is scary for even them? And they managed to pull that off, because I think and this is one of my favorite things about the world, is that the flora and the fauna are all working in tandem. This world has been around for a very long time. This planet has been around for a very long time. And I just thought it was so cool that it's like, everything wants to kill you so much or hunt you so much that they're able to work together. We've got these flying creatures that are working with the plants and in just sort of this deadly harmony, and it's so cool.
Well, they're doing exactly what you would hope is from any sort of planet, is working together to defend themselves,
Yeah.
right, from unknown threats. But at the same time, it is interesting how many things are on this planet that want to kill you, and it's just literally a haven of death. But yeah, I think going off of what you guys were talking about, how the film kind of leans into this sort of grounded cinematography in a way that feels very tactile. It feels very intimate at times too. In this, these terrains, we see kind of more of like a deserty planet for Yautja Prime, and then for Gina we see more of a sort of rainforest vibe, right? A jungle, which in my mind really took me back to 1987, to the original.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of had that sort of like sweaty vibe to it. You know what I mean? That was just it just
You can feel the humidity.
Exactly. You could feel the humidity. You can almost imagine what it would smell like, right? In the sense of just the moisture in the air and the rain. But yeah, the creature design and the visual effects for all the things that want to kill you were absolutely standout. And I think it feels polished to a certain degree on certain instances. I think some of it is obviously, like I said at the top, to be expected. You're going to get some larger than life creatures that there's only one way to really do that, and it is to really design them through CGI to really get the sort of movement and weight to some of these creatures. But yeah, the way the predator looks feels like so updated. It feels cool. I wonder how many people are really going to appreciate it, because I think the originals were more like costume designed to a degree, right? And I think there is a bit of that, but there is also a strong reliance on the CGI and the performance capture quality of it all, because you want to give depth to your character Deck, who is going to basically carry this movie and kind of be an emotional touch point of the entire film. So there's that's kind of working with it. So it's like old and new to a certain degree. Like it feels it works to a certain point. But I am interested to hear how many people are going to kind of talk about that as well. So how have they've adapting the CGI aspect of it.
Well, I mean, there's a number of things that I think that hardcore fans are going to absolutely love, and I think there's going to be a number of things that they might sort of shy away from when we get talking about like some of the themes and the story. But I think in terms of the visuals and especially the look of the Yautja that we're following, I think they established with Killer of Killers, that was one of our favorite things about it, was the different size of Yautja, the different way that they're able to design them and showcase them. And this movie, especially from a story standpoint, does have a bit of a focus on the both immense physicality of our main Yautja and the somewhat lack of physicality in certain circles. But I did also want to mention the cinematography by Jeff Cutter. I think when it comes to the action, and Killer of Killers, I think is going to come up a few times even more after this. But I remember we talked about that, and we talked about the animation and the action specifically, and how the camera was able to flow and follow through. And I gotta shout out to Jeff Cutter and the team. I think a lot of it, definitely, as you said, Justin, there's a lot of CG shots that are done. But I think there's just such a wonderful way that the camera is able to weave and keep up with these characters that are sort of flying around the screen.
Yeah.
Deck is getting tossed or jumping off things. And I just think the way that they were able to choreograph that movement and the movement of the camera, it just makes for such a fun ride where you're just kind of giggling and laughing along in some of the cheesier moments as well as the more serious ones. But I just thought that the way that the camera moved in this movie was so well done.
Yeah, I think that's what actually adds so much to it feeling very intimate and visceral, and just kind of really harkening back to that boots on the ground approach to how the movie feels in a lot of ways. But I mentioned it before, the score from Sarah Schachner, who also scored Prey. It just adds so much atmosphere to this movie. It's that again, that guttural, like, wow, that feels very, throat songy. Just it's haunting tones at times, but then also elevated for action in a lot of ways. Like, there was just moments that felt very like 90s action music to a certain degree, but just like little hints of it. So I think from scene to scene, it differed, but it always felt primal. It always felt eerie. And I think it fit the world perfectly. So shout out to Sarah for, again, bringing such a very beautiful, unique tone to a Predator movie.
Yeah, and I also Benjamin Wallfish worked with Sarah as well on this composition, and it was like kind of a collaborative effort. And he also worked on Prey, and he worked on Blade Runner 2049, which I think you can hear some similarities in that score along with this. But I think my favorite thing about this score, to your point, I mean, my favorite thing is definitely how Dune it sounds at the beginning, as you mentioned, with the guttural voices. But I also really like how the score sort of Deck's arc is kind of reflected in the way the score plays out, where earlier in the movie you're getting more harsh strings, and then there's other times in the movie where we get more soft, heroic horns and other elements that sort of play really well to it, right?
Mhm.
And I just think it's really cool because I think it adds so much to the movie, it adds so much to the story, but then I think it really does help push the heart of the themes and really what it's sort of focusing on. And then I just wanted to quickly say, please watch this in IMAX, specifically for Dolby sound, or just any theater that has Dolby sound, because the sound in this rips. My watch pinged me at least 6 times to say that your environment is too loud. You need to get to somewhere safe. And it's just again, it's sort of similar to Tron this year. Really sort of, I felt it kind of pulsing through me. And again, that just adds so much to that immersiveness. And you're hearing these sounds of these beasts or these animals, or the Yautja language, which Darcy, you and I were talking about, how it sort of sounded like a combination of Huttese and Klingon together, which, as sci-fi fans, I mean, come on, you just got to be happy about that. And I think, again, just another really wonderful way that they're building this world with that language was so cool. The sound and music is just, yeah, when we're talking look and feel, you feel it for sure.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think they definitely went the distance to try to make this a in theater experience. Like a enjoyable in theater experience. And again, when we talk about all the variations of screenings and where you can see it and so on and so forth, it just feels like elements like larger picture, better sound. It's all staple to enhancing that experience. Another thing that enhances the experience of this film is the performances, and the one thing about it is that it keeps things. There's only 2 people to really focus on, so it really keeps everything super tight, and there's not a ton of characters to focus on. And I think that's by design. It really comes down to just 2 performances that are driving the whole story. And honestly, the smaller scope, I think, works in favor. Lets the film breathe a little bit more, and it just allows for moments of, with the tensions and the emotions, to kind of sit there a little bit longer versus just trying to rush off. So I think it really works, even though one person is a creature. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Dimitrius as Deck. Darcy, what did you think about his performance as in this? I guess it's more of a performance capture role.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned how the way that they brought this predator to life, you could really feel all these emotions. And again, that comes from the performance capture, because he plays this outcast Yautja trying to prove himself so well. And the journey you go on, you feel so connected to something that is so alien looking. And all that comes down to his eyes and how much he acts through the makeup or the performance capture, because his eyes come through so well. And you can feel his emotions through that. So I think he did a great job of, again, being the first time we're following a predator for so long for a story. He did an amazing job of making him feel like a relatable character despite being so alien.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like you're saying, Darcy. It's wild how much they're able to endear you, or he's able to endear you to this killer, this monster, right? This thing that for the last, for the entirety of the franchise, we've really never sort of felt like, oh, I wonder how he feels. I wonder if he's okay. I wonder what's going through his head right now. I mean, in reality, we're just afraid of him, or rooting against the Yautja. And I think to the element of him being the smallest of his clan, the weakest of his clan, I think. I just think that again, that adds to that element that sort of has you already right off the bat sort of going like, oh, I hope this guy makes it through. And yeah, I think his performance was fantastic in showcasing that. And like you said, Justin, through the eyes, very much so. You really, really do get to see Dimitrius's performance through his eyes and through those facial expressions that the visual effects team were able to capture. And the stunt team was able to work with to kind of, again, add to that imposing nature of him. So I think both he and Elle as Thea they've got great chemistry. And I also just think both of them are funny. Like, I was laughing at both performances throughout, and just some of the different facial expressions and things that they would do, their mannerisms. So yeah, I was laughing way more than I thought I would for this movie.
Yeah, I think, for Dimitrius, he's mostly behind a mask to a certain degree, but there is a reliance on what he's bringing from a performance standpoint and how that's going to translate. And yeah, his work is primarily performance capture, and I think that makes it a little tough to tell where the tech ends and the performances begin at certain points, especially with him being a newcomer. But that said, you get that the way they're able to work off of his body language and his performance, and even just the action choreography, it was so well done. I think every moment carries a certain level of weight, whether it's stillness and the way he's experiencing something emotionally, or whether it is being chased by something crazy that's going to kill him. It worked for the purpose of this film. But I think the delightful part of it is Elle Fanning. I think she carries most of this film, especially since she's essentially...
She is carried for most of the film.
Thank you for that. She is carried, and she carries this film. So maybe there's a tongue-in-cheek thing there. But she's essentially the voice of the story, and literally because she speaks the English language. And while Deck is obviously communicating in entirely in Yautja language, her performance feels different overall. Hers is more lighthearted at times. It's funny, it's insightful, but there's just the right amount of desperation as well in her performance. And there's also some badassery that I think Deck kind of pulls out of her in some ways. So she brings the human touch that I think kind of keeps it all grounded, but yet she's not human, obviously, which we'll talk about more later. But yeah, I thought like that humor that you were referencing, it was interesting, and I think that's another element that I'm like curious to see how fans are going to react. Right? Like, there's humor in this. This isn't a Predator movie. I can just see shit like that happening, and it's like, well, open your mind a little bit, right? Like, or just open yourself up to the idea of what this story is trying to do, especially from the basis of like making the Predator the protagonist of this film, right? Like, we're following their journey and understanding what they're going through. So, but yeah, I know you guys probably have thoughts about Elle Fanning. Darcy, what did you think about her for performance as Thea?
Yeah, again, she was delightful, I think was the best way to put it, because she brings this know-it-all energy while also being so innocent and excited to explore this deadly planet. It's crazy. It's a weird thing to look through it, but it works so well for this universe, like, or at least this story, because pairing her with someone cold and killer, like a cold-hearted killer who doesn't want any help. It was just this perfect marriage that gives you a great like buddy cop dynamic between the two of them.
Very good
And again,
point.
she does a great job of bringing that humanity to it, despite being, like you said, one of these synths. So it was really cool. I really enjoyed her performance, and again, the way they play off each other really sells their dynamic, and I love it.
Yeah, I think when we think of synths and we think of what we've seen in the past, especially most recently with Alien Earth, with the character of Kirsch, who we all really enjoyed in that show. But, they both have white hair, but this is such a different synth. And I think Elle Fanning is that missing element that I never realized I would need in this franchise. I think it was a big part of her performance. And this is where maybe we differ a little bit, but I just sort of felt like she was towing the line, especially near the beginning of the movie. I think further in, when she does get a little bit more, we care about her a little bit more. At the beginning, she toes that line between annoying and charming so well that you understand what the audience is put in Dex. I don't think he wears shoes, but in his like feet, basically, as he gets to know her more and more. And I also really loved what they did, again, bringing it back to the sound design, but also part of Elle Fanning's performance with her voice. I think Thea's malfunctioning voice box, where she goes like super lo-fi and staticky, is just like endearing. It's this weird feeling that I get where
It's
it's like,
untrustworthy though too, right? Like it that's the other thing too. It definitely hints at the nature of understanding what are her intentions, right? Because of that sort of distortion that she has in her voice.
to me, it made me feel like I actually felt a little bit bad for her, though, because of it, more than anything, just because I was like, oh, she's broken. Like, maybe she's not thinking properly. Maybe she's not doing her mission properly. Again,
Mm.
she's so, like you said, she's so delightful in her whimsy of like wanting to learn everything there is to know about these horribly deadly creatures that we'd all be crapping our pants, being anywhere near. But no, I thought it was great to see her, and to see her, studying the various species for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is really, really cool. Yeah, I think they did such a good job with her, and I was really, really happy with Elle Fanning in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I think those performances do really hit what the mark of what they're meant to do for the story, and that's because of the story. I think let's start talking about this, because I think this is something that's like there's a simplicity around it, but there's also a surprisingly thoughtful approach to telling the story that they're telling in this film. Darcy, what did you think about the story overall for Predator Badlands?
Again, well, the story isn't perfect. I do appreciate this is the direction they're taking up for their first Predator-led movie. Is this very universal story that I think anyone could relate to? And while the pacing towards the end does kind of falter a bit, I think again the fact that you said it's so simple, but the way they approach this time-old story is it works so well for this again first venture into a Predator movie. So it was really cool. I can't say much without getting into spoilers,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
I what I appreciate is the fact that it feels fresh and it feels like it fits within the universe, while still again bringing that new perspective to the Predator franchise.
Yeah, it's about the evolution. It's not a reboot, it's not a
Hmm.
retread. It's honestly it's an evolution, and I think it's honoring the mythology of the Predator, but taking some creative swings that'll actually pay off. I think the pacing isn't
Hmm.
the best overall, but I think it's more about the story itself that I was interested in than the pacing. I think the pacing kind of
Hmm.
is a thing that can happen with films at time, where they just kind of lose like their sort of momentum, or they slow down, or they suddenly move too fast or something. There is a little bit of that here and there at certain points, but it really does come down to the overall, like, what they're trying to say and what they're trying to do, that really stood out to me. Nate, how about for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's the tone is very specific, and I think the structure, the action, like you said, the major beats felt expected, but then the major theme makes sense when you think of the clan mentality of the Yautja culture.
Yeah.
And it really is something, but I don't think it's something that people coming into this, to your point from earlier about some of the things that fans are going to be like, what the heck? Laughing in this movie? No way. I think that major theme may work for some people, may not work for everyone. It definitely worked for me. But again, it just wasn't anything I was expecting. I also think there's a lot of cheesy moments. There's a lot of on the nose dialogue that's a little over expository. But I do wonder if, because my only understanding of the Predator verse basically is Killer of Killers and Prey. And so I do wonder if I had watched the first two Predator movies, if like some of the cheesy shots or the slow motion explosion situation that we see in the trailer, if that would feel like it made more sense if I had watched those movies, right? I do wonder if there's maybe they wanted to carry over those elements and that vibe into this movie because it is part of the Predator franchise proper. But I do love how, you know, it as we talked about, it sort of ties into Alien. It ties Alien and Predator together. I think the world of Genna showcasing all these creatures. If you've watched Alien Earth, again, there's going to be just all sort. There were so many moments where I was like, have we seen this before? Have we seen that thing before? That thing that's flying, that scoops someone up. Did we see that before? But I think, to your point with the pacing, Justin, I just want to quickly mention, I do think that third act feels very conventional and feels very, what you would expect from an action movie. And again, that's fine. I just think that it was something that we've seen before a little bit too much. And I would have liked them to have done something just a little bit different, like they did for the first two acts of the movie.
No, I think you're right. I think that's where it kind of just feels like it was playing with with the formula. It was switching things up for the first two acts, and then we get to that third act, and it's like, okay, we're just gonna wrap this up in a more conventional way because we've already set the pieces up on the board, and that is where it kind of fell short. What I also appreciated about this film, it obviously it's not a sequel to Prey, but let's just say that it's spiritually a sequel to that film in the way Badlands kind of dives into understanding traditions for the Predator, right? And for the Yautja, that ideology of hunting, being hunted, and what survival really means. I think Badlands is meant to take that one step further by humanizing Deck and the hunter, and having us, in a way, understand this ominous faceless killer that we've known for so many years in a whole other way. And I think that's what's refreshing about this, and hopefully that's what fans can kind of appreciate of the original franchise that are coming here and seeing this, is understanding the sort of the reason why that the Predator is the Predator, the hunter is the hunter, which is what I really enjoy. And I think Deck's journey is about legacy, it's about pride, and it's about what it means to just uphold a code in a world constantly testing you with deadly threats around every corner. So I think that the story itself really does respect the roots of the franchise, and I think it's just asking new questions. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? Do you know what I mean? Like, what happens when they're no longer their prey, as the quote that I referenced before. What drives a warrior beyond the hunt itself, the duality, man versus monster, survival versus morality. I think this is what gives this film its edge, is this sort of back and forth nature, and focusing it on these two characters that kind of have parallel journeys. It's I think that to me is what stands out as being refreshingly different about the story. So hopefully fans of Predator will really enjoy it. I don't know why I'm doubting it so much, because like they really liked Prey, but Prey felt probably more like a Predator movie than this does, right?
Again, I think the fact that this is so different in the direction they take it with the tone and everything like that, that is why you feel that apprehension, because it feels so unlike anything that has come before in Predator. But again, that's why I find it very refreshing, is that we are getting this new take on a franchise where we only think of them as a ruthless killer, and now we're getting to know why they are these ruthless killers, which is always cool. We like a good backstory, basically.
And I think if you can open your mind up enough from the story and the theming perspective, they've got you with the action. They've got you with
Mhm.
the creatures. They've got you with the devices,
Mhm.
the weapons. I mean, there was so many parts in this where I was like, can this be a video game right now? Because I want to play as a Yautja on
Yeah.
this planet, like hunting things, doing like a monster hunter kind of thing. So yeah, I think there are so many things for Predator fans to love and Alien fans, and there's a ton of Easter eggs. There's going to be a bunch of moments where you're going to kind of see little things where you're going to get excited. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see that happen.
Don't doubt it.
No, I know, and especially given how predominant Wayland is in this, like just the name itself and the technology and stuff like that. It's clear that there is some value that can be gained by merging these two worlds at some point. It's just a matter of what point we're gonna get. So maybe that's a conversation for another time, because I don't want to get too into spoilers about things. But that said, I think it's time that we share our final thoughts and our rating on a scale of 1 to 5 trophies of the hunt. Darcy, why don't you set us a hunt first?
Yeah, I think there is plenty to love in this, outing into the Predator franchise and how refreshing and different it is. While the story does feel conventional and suffers some of those third act, issues that a lot of these action movies do suffer, it's fun and the characters are engaging, and I do want to return to this world through this lens or perspective. Give me more stories from the Yautja side of things because they seem like a very interesting people, and this movie really sets up the fact that they could be more than just these faceless killers. So that is really cool. Yeah, it isn't my favorite Predator movie. I mean, I think Prey and Killer of Killers do stand above it from the Trachtenberg trilogy, if you will. But this one stands right up there or close behind those two because it does such a good job of reinventing what it means to be a Predator movie. So for that reason, I'll be giving this one a very solid 4 out of 5 trophies of the hunt.
Nate, how about for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I hope I can bring this home and do you proud. Uh, I can't say I enjoyed this more than Prey or more than Predator Killer of Killers, but I did enjoy this movie as much as something like Alien Romulus, and I think that movie is obviously more horror leaning. Both that movie and this movie do some really good things in expanding the universe even further, and sort of staying true to their concepts of alien and predator, scary aliens, ruthless predators, or Yautja. And I think both of those movies, similarly, have phenomenal first 2 acts and then a more conventional third act that I would have liked to have been a little better. I think the visuals from a cinematography standpoint are excellent from this, but there are a few CG looking creatures
Mhm.
that didn't fully work for me as far as feeling the weight or just feeling that they were real. But I wasn't distracted by that too much because I think this movie does a great job of continuously pulling you back to Elle and Dimitrius, who just have such a wonderful chemistry that was so unexpected but so lovely throughout the whole movie. I didn't anticipate the tone that this movie would go, and I certainly wasn't necessarily expecting some of the cheesier moments or the comedy, but as a package, I just really had a good time with this movie, and I can't wait to dig further into this world and these characters. A phenomenal score, musical score, wicked cool action, and I just cared so much about Thea and Deck. So I think all of that definitely brought my score up. I'm giving Predator Badlands a very solid 4 out of 5 trophies of the hunt.
Dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that this is like my favorite of the Predator franchise. I think Prey has taken the top, and then obviously followed closely by Killers of Killers, and then 1 and 2 are kind of, back to back for third spot. But this, I think, is worthy. I think the Predator franchise has always just been about survival instinct and that thin line between hunter and hunted. And Badlands isn't just another jungle chase. It's very much a bold new chapter in the idea of expanding the lore, humanizing the hunter, and bringing the series to a sort of primal root while giving a surprising emotional edge. Like, I was really actually surprised with how much emotion they were able to layer in, and to almost give us empathy for Deck. I think what Dan Trachtenberg has done here, just, it feels like, again, like I mentioned before, an evolution of what he started with Prey. It's still about tradition and the thrill of the hunt, but now it's layered with questions of legacy and purpose through Deck, and we see a predator driven, I guess, not by instinct, but by pride. A warrior that is very much bound by a code of conviction, and through Elle Fanning's performance as Thea, we see the cost of survival from the other side, right? We see the lighthearted human side, even though she's a synth, yet she's got fear, and she still has some resilience and some badass in her. So yeah, I think Badlands, it's a reminder really of why this franchise endures. It has redefined what it can be in a lot of ways, like moving it in a different direction. And yeah, there are some pacing issues in that third act that really are like, dang, I wish they didn't fall into sort of a conventional spill. And the CGI does, kind of show its face here and there throughout. But I think overall, this movie just proves that within the brutality and the bloodshed, there's room for an introspective look. There's room for empathy, and there's room for evolution. And I think it's still a hunt, but this time it's hunting for a meaning. And I think that's what's really important. So yeah, I'm giving this one a 4 out of 5 trophies of the hunt. Dope. Awesome. Well, we hope you enjoyed our spoiler-free review for Predator Badlands, which is in theaters November 7th in a variety of different formats. As Nate mentioned, see it in IMAX. The Dolby slaps. Like, it'll slap your ears and tell you that you're
slap you right in the ears and tell you you're not worthy of your family.
If you enjoyed this review, feel free to write into us and let us know. You can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. You can also hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram and TikTok at wearegeekcentric. Keeping it all things Predator. We've mentioned Killer of Killers numerous times in this podcast. So why not go and listen to our spoiler-free review for it? If you haven't watched it, it is available to stream on Disney+. It is a movie that is broken up into basically chapters, and it's animated and it's violent. So if you are a Predator fan, you might appreciate it. But hey, maybe you want to listen to the spoiler-free review first. You can do that. It's available on podcast feeds. We also have an interview for this film that will be available on podcast feeds and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric. Had the opportunity to sit down with the director, Dan Trachtenberg, to talk about this film. It was the quickest 5 minutes of my life, but I'm grateful for the time. I had so many questions, and I was only able to get through 2, but it was still a good time, and he was very gracious in joining us on the podcast. So look forward to that tomorrow on November 5th. Where you will be able to enjoy that both on podcast feeds and on our YouTube channel. But I don't know if you know this, maybe you're not following us on social, but we hungry. We're hungry
like a predator eating some leg of some creature.
Sure. I was really going for the Tay Diggs Fast and Furious. Yo, we hungry. I don't know if you've ever seen Fast and Furious 2. Anyways, we hungry because we started something called Eatcentric, which was inspired by Darcy and Nate and Kevin traveling Japan, eating food and sampling stuff. And now we're turning that into a whole new kit and caboodle, a side project, a spin-off of We Are Geekcentric, where we eat some snacks and tell you our thoughts, all on Instagram and on TikTok. You can find us on both platforms at We Are Eatcentric. Yeah, you see that? We're super clever. Super clever. Just drop the geek, switch to eats. There we go. There we go.
I was in my office, right, and then Darcy came up
toilet,
to me and he said,
right.
and he came up to me.
Whoa.
He leaned in and he said, "Drop the geek, make it eat."
I don't like that.
Away. He dropped the mic, walked away. I was like, wow.
I could see Darcy abruptly opening the bathroom door while you're in there and just being like,
I knock. I always knock.
He always does that.
No,
you're right, Justin.
No, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Stop throwing this out there.
Let's keep
I
going
knock.
on this.
No, good Lord.
But look, we would love it if you'd want to join us in our eating adventures. So the link to our social will be in the show notes. Feel free to check it out. We got a few videos up. We have more to come. We're going to just kind of play around with it, have fun with it, do our thing. But yeah, it's going to be a good time for being a geek that eats. Sure, let's go with that.
We all got to eat, and we're all a bunch of geeks.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
See, they even rhyme, so it's like just it's all there.
Wow.
Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes for you to enjoy, like our most recent spoiler-free review for Star Wars Visions Volume 3. That's out right now. We loved the hell out of that, so go show some love to that episode. We are getting into the winter time, the winter season, which means things are wrapping up. We're still in fall. Don't worry, we're still in fall, but we see the snow. It's winter is coming, and we couldn't be more excited to close out 2025. A few more reviews, maybe some interviews. Who knows? We'll see what we will get before the end of the year. But be sure to subscribe to us wherever you listen to podcasts. Nate, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-free review. And as we say,
Love ya.
Laters.
peace.